Report cards are out. What grades did Sacramento Kings players, the coaching staff, and the front office receive for this 46-win season? Over the next week, we'll share that with you, beginning today with the 3 stars, De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, and Malik Monk, right here on Locked On Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily Sacramento Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time for another episode of Locked On Kings.
Hello and welcome into Locked On Kings, your podcast hub for Sacramento Kings coverage all off season long. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. We got to talk more about Monopoly Go, this fast-paced game that lets you team up with your friends for tournaments and unlock awesome prizes like unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. So download Monopoly Go now for free on Google Play or the App Store, and game on. My name is Matt George. I have the privilege of being your host here. I'm a Sacramento sports anchor and reporter for ABC 10 News. And I'm the kind of teacher, I'm the kind of grader that wants to see everybody succeed. So I've been told in the past that my grades are a little lighter than they need to be. And some of you are probably going to feel that way on today's podcast when looking at the 3 stars. So that's where I need your help. My teacher's assistants out there. If you want to submit your own grades, we could have my grade and then the Locked On Kings listener kind of average grade, and I'll share those with you maybe in the comment section or in the following episode about the last episode. Give your grades out and a brief explanation for why this certain player gets that grade. And again, on today's show, we're focusing on De'Aaron Fox, on Domantas Sabonis, and Malik Monk, the best 3 players on this Kings team this year. So let me know what your grades are. You can hit them or you can send them to me in the comment section down below if you're watching on YouTube. If you want to tweet them at me, you can at Matt George Sack on Twitter or X. And you can email me, mattgeorgesports at gmail.com if you'd like to as well. So let's start with the man, right? The face of this Kings team, the guy, the head of the snake, as Luke Walton called him. And that nickname is kind of stuck, even though Walton has been gone for a while. De'Aaron Fox. And out of the 3 guys that we're talking about today, De'Aaron Fox gets the lowest rating. He's also got the hardest responsibility out of anybody on the roster, right? You're the star. So when the team succeeds or fails, you're going to get the majority of the credit. You're also going to take a majority of the blame. Now, that being said, I had a hard time giving De'Aaron Fox anything worse than an A- grade. So if we're grading this on a percentage base, it's like a 90 or 91% season. Let's talk about the positives first. De'Aaron Fox jumped nearly 2 points per game in his scoring average from 25 to 26.6. I said nearly 2 points. He improved as an offensive player. He improved as a scorer. The Sacramento Kings needed that from him. He had 8 40-point games this season, 18 games where he scored between 30 and 39 points. So that means 26 games this season where Fox scored 30 or more points and only 14 games where he was under 20. Now, some of us might say he needs to get rid of those under 20 games altogether, or they need to be less than 10. And you're probably right to some extent. A common theme in today's podcast when looking at these 3 players is Sacramento's offense as a whole. The team offense, we know, took a dip this season compared to last season. The defense obviously improved. De'Aaron Fox was a massive part of that defensive improvement. We'll get into that in a little bit. But the offense needing to get back to where it is does not mean that the Sacramento Kings are going to become an 120 points per game scoring team again like they were last season. I think those days are done with this team. But in my opinion, the offensive improvement for this team, are the Kings getting back to as good as they can be offensively consistently next season and the seasons going forward, is overall more offensive improvement from the top guys, from the Foxes, from the Sabonises, from the Keegan Murrays. And I'll even put Malik Monk in there, hoping that the Kings will re-sign him and be able to bring him back for next season and for future seasons. But 14 games under 20 points, that's not horrible by any means, considering he had nearly as many 40-point games this season, especially with how well De'Aaron Fox played to start the season, right? He was averaging over 30 points per game. He was scoring with the best of the league to open up the season. It dipped off, though, when we got to the middle part of the season and figuring out how to maintain his efficiency as a scorer through an 82-game season. And I understand that's difficult to do. By the way, De'Aaron Fox played 74 out of 82 games for the Kings during the regular season. That doesn't include the play-in tournament. 74 games that De'Aaron Fox played this year. So yes, he dealt with injuries, but he still was relatively healthy. He missed only 8 games. So there's not a narrative or there's not a conversation of De'Aaron Fox needs to stay more healthy. It's hard to ask for more than that, right? We're going to talk about Domantas Sabonis a little bit, who played all 82 games. Harrison Barnes played all 82 games. That's the anomaly. To have your superstar only miss 8 games is really, really good for the Sacramento Kings. So at no part in this grade system or narrative is, oh, De'Aaron Fox just needs to be healthier. That's not a thing. The Kings are going to hope that De'Aaron Fox plays 74 or more games next season as well. But it's when you get into those middle months of the season, right? The grind days of the season, the late December, early January, actually all of January, all of February, right around the beginning of the All-Star break, right? Those days are where De'Aaron Fox needs to be, I think, better, or that's where we'll see the majority of his offensive improvement come from, because he starts the season red hot. He ends the season really, really well when so much is on the line. But that middle part of the year, those dog days, what does De'Aaron Fox look like as an offensive player during that time? That's where the Kings could see a jump from him. That's where he could work his way up into the A or even A+ grade level. He shot 37% shooting on a massive jump in volume from 3-point range, from 5 to 7.8 3-point attempts per game. So the 3-point shot is there. He established himself. Now, he was shooting over 40% from 3-point range early on in the year. We expected that percentage to come back down to earth, but in reality, it didn't come back down that much. 37% from 3-point range for De'Aaron Fox on that high of a volume is really, really good. I don't necessarily need to see that improve any more than maybe minor improvements would be nice. Any significant improvement upon that is like amazing bonus level, but we shouldn't expect too much more than 37% from 3-point range from De'Aaron Fox on 7.8 attempts per game. The thing is, though, finding the balance right between the over-reliance on the 3-point shot and when it is the right shot. And more often than not, I think De'Aaron Fox makes the right decision. However, Fox is known for attacking the basket and scoring around the rim. And there were times this season where it felt like De'Aaron intentionally went away from that to try and get more threes up. And there are games that I remember. I can't exactly point them out off the top of my head right now. I could go through a box score, but there were certainly games over the course of the season where it felt like, God, De'Aaron, we just get to the rim a little bit. Get to the rim. And this is where we're talking about those dog days of the season, that middle of the year, because maybe De'Aaron, now with an established 3-point shot, already playing banged up, because he played banged up a lot this season, he's probably a little hesitant to go on in there amongst the 6'9", 6'10", 7-footers that are going to push him and shove him and whack him around, especially when he's not getting to the free throw line still at the rate that he should be getting to. I understand his hesitancy to go in and get hit versus, hey, I can shoot this three with a pretty high percentage now. I'm just going to take this shot and avoid the wear and tear on my body. I understand that. That being said, his 2-point field goal percentage kind of plummeted from 58% to 52% on a near identical volume. So that tells me that he was still getting to the rim a decent amount, that the 3-point shot wasn't taking away too much from the rest of his game. He just wasn't as efficient finishing around the rim and finishing with that mid-range jumper that became his go-to last season, or the season before, I should say, when he won Clutch Player of the Year, right? De'Aaron Fox's 2-point field goal percentage is extremely important, and the Kings need him to be that dynamic, lethal finisher inside the 3-point line with the addition of this 3-point shot, right? They don't want him to become a capable 3-point scorer that takes away from his elite scoring ability around the rim that he brought into the league with him. Although I think it's fair to expect that the speed and the athleticism and the finishing around the rim will begin to slow down with time. But we should not be talking about that right now because De'Aaron Fox is in his prime, right? He's still a young player. He's in his prime, so we don't necessarily have to be concerned about that. Another thing is his free throw percentage also dropped from 78% to 73%. So you need that free throw percentage to go up. And he got to the line slightly fewer times per game this season than he did last season. So he needs to get to the line more. Part of that is a refereeing issue. Part of that, I guess, is a De'Aaron Fox issue of him not selling foul calls enough like a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander does. I don't know what the deal is. De'Aaron Fox needs to be getting to the line more, and then when he gets there, he needs to be knocking down a higher percentage of his three-point shot. His defense, fantastic. His on-ball defense was excellent this year. NBA steals leader for a reason, right? De'Aaron Fox has made that consistent quality defensive improvement. I don't have really any concerns about De'Aaron on the defensive end anymore. So to me, really, the biggest things for Fox are like that middle of the season in production and that like sheer will to win, right? And a comparison I make, and I feel like Fox gets compared to so many different guards in this league whenever they're doing well or whenever they're playing and Fox is not. Jalen Brunson is one of those guys right now. Jalen Brunson had an MVP caliber season with the New York Knicks. He's not going to win it, but he had an absolute MVP caliber season. He exploded this year as a scorer. You watch him in the playoffs, what he's doing with New York, and he just has this attitude of, I am going to score and you are not going to stop me. And we've seen De'Aaron have that attitude before. When we say De'Aaron Fox plays angry, look out. That's what we're talking about. When De'Aaron Fox plays angry and has that look on his face like, all y'all MFers, get out of my way. None of you are stopping me. I'm going to go get mine. And De'Aaron has said before in press conferences, he feels that he could get to anywhere on the floor that he wants and get any shot that he wants. I think just Kings fans want to see, myself, I want to see more of that Jalen Brunson sheer will to win on games that aren't massively, massively important. Right? We know he can do it in the playoffs. We saw what he did. I mean, he had the highest or one of the best and highest scoring debuts in the playoffs in NBA history against the Golden State Warriors in game 1 last year. We know how good De'Aaron can play in big games, but does he have that sheer will to win against the Detroit Pistons or against the Charlotte Hornets on a Tuesday night game in Sacramento or on the road, and it's game 48 of the season, right? One of those nights where De'Aaron is just like, you know what? This team is not freaking beating me. I'm going for 40 tonight if that's what it takes for us to get this win that we need. That's where the improvement comes from for De'Aaron Fox. If the Kings make the playoffs, this grade, it goes from an A- to an A. Unfortunately, the results of the team kind of weigh on this De'Aaron Fox grade. Some of you are going to say he should be in the B range because of the Kings missing the playoffs and because at times you felt that he was not good enough and he had games where offensively he wasn't good enough. Again, he scored less than 20 points only 14 times this season out of 74 games that he played. So 60 plus games, he scored 20 points or more. Like that's what you expect and what you want out of your star. Do you want more 40-point games? Do you want more 30 to 39-point games? Okay, I get it. But that doesn't bring his grade into the B range for me. De'Aaron Fox absolutely can improve. We've laid out how he can improve, but he still played like a star. He still made improvements on both ends of the floor, offensively and defensively, which is what we needed to see. The Kings are very, very confident in him still being the guy going forward. All right, like I said at the top of the show, today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by Monopoly Go. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with your friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes that you unlock. And there's so many things to get, right? You can get unique stickers that you trade in with your friends to complete albums and get all sorts of massive prizes for that. You get cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, more than just the shoe or the dog or the top hat that you're used to with classic Monopoly. Plus, you get hilarious emojis, and these things are so much fun to taunt your friends with after you like smash their buildings or rob their banks. Yeah, you can do that in Monopoly Go. You can play dirty, right? And it's one of the most fun parts about Monopoly Go. And it feels new and exciting every single day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. And there's always timed events that help you win big, like massive multiplayers for everything that you win or for rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it for free at Google Play or the App Store and game on. Locked On Kings is also brought to you by FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and the NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, or more. So all you do, there's really no parameters to it other than you just have to win on a $5 bet. So sign up and put only $5 of your own money in, right? That's all you have to invest. And put that down on the biggest, heaviest favorite bet that you can find. Even if the payout is terrible, right? Let's say it's a $5 bet for a payout of less than $1. Who cares? Because once you win that bet, sure, you get the pennies or whatever you win in that bet alone, but then you get 150 bets on top of that, bucks on top of that. So now you have, let's say, like $156 for you then to go crazy with your fun spreads, money lines, player props, and more throughout the playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs, through baseball season, come football season as well, right? There's so many ways for you to win on FanDuel, so many creative and fun ways to play. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, now it's time for the grade for Domantas Sabonis. Now, had the Kings made the playoffs this year, I don't know, like this grade could have been better or worse, I suppose, because the grade could have gone up and would have gone up, in my opinion, had Domantas Sabonis played well in the playoffs and kind of finally shut up and silenced some of those doubters. Of course, had he not played well in the playoffs, the grade might have gone significantly down, because we know that's the area of Domantas Sabonis' game that needs a lot of improvement, is showing up and playing well on the big stage. We know that the Kings in general did not show up and play well in New Orleans during their play-in game, but they did play well in their first play-in game against the Golden State Warriors, including Domantas Sabonis outplayed the Warriors big time in that game, to where the Warriors stopping Sabonis or frustrating Sabonis wasn't even a topic of conversation after that game. So that gives him some points as well. Look, I could not give Domantas Sabonis worse than an A grade. I couldn't. And again, you might say, Matt, you're just grading too easy. You're grading too soft. How are you giving so many A grades out for a team that missed the playoffs? I understand what you're saying. Domantas Sabonis played all 82 games. In those 82 games, he finished with 77 double-doubles and 26 triple-doubles, leading the league in both of those areas. He had a history-making season with his double-double streak, and he accomplished feats consistently, not just once or twice, consistently this year, that only names like Wilt Chamberlain and Nikola Jokic were accomplishing, right? He led the NBA in rebounding, which jumped up from 12.3 a game last year, which led the league last year, to 13.7. He improved on himself last year to continue to lead the league in rebounding. His assists, his steals, and his blocks were all slightly up as well. Here's the thing. We all know how Domantas Sabonis can improve. We all know that Domantas Sabonis is not a perfect player, but you have to understand, with these grades, with each player, it is not a even playing field, right? Some players are going to get graded on a curve. Some players are going to get graded harder than others based off of the expectations that's laid upon them, based off of their role and responsibility with the team. And Domantas Sabonis does have a massive role and responsibility in Sacramento, yes. But understand this too. Domantas Sabonis, where Domas can improve, which is mainly offensively, mainly as a scorer. Just, I need you to make this, to understand this and to make this perfectly clear. If Domantas Sabonis improves offensively in the ways that the Sacramento Kings would love to see him improve, or in the ways that Kings fans talk about him needing to improve, that makes him an MVP candidate, like legit. A legit MVP candidate. Look, Domantas Sabonis was on the MVP ladder for most of the season. We all know he never had a shot in winning it, right? We all see the levels of Nikola Jokic compared to a Domantas Sabonis, right? And it mainly has to do with scoring. Jokic is a better passer than Sabonis. Yes, he is, 100%. But Domantas Sabonis is still the closest thing to a passing big, or closest thing to Nikola Jokic in terms of a passing big in this league. He's the closest thing. There's a gap, but it's not massive. Domantas Sabonis is a better rebounder than Nikola Jokic. There's a gap. It's very, very tiny. Nikola Jokic is a way better scorer than Domantas Sabonis. It's a gap, and it's significant. Even if Domantas Sabonis cuts that gap in half, we're talking about him going from a 20-point per game scorer to like a 25-point per game scorer. If he continues to lead the league in double-doubles, lead the league in triple-doubles, put up the numbers that he's putting up, have the efficiency of which he plays on the offensive end of the ball, he's an MVP candidate. He's not better than Jokic. He's not better than Joel Embiid if he's healthy. But he's an MVP candidate, right? So what we're asking from Domantas Sabonis to improve on the offensive end for Sabonis, I should say asking Sabonis to improve more than slightly on the offensive end is basically asking him to cement himself with the best players in the league. He's capable of doing that. Why not expect that from him if he expects that from himself? If the Kings get that from him, we know that they're a very, very good basketball team. And if they want to win a championship, maybe that's what it's going to take. So if you feel confident asking that of Sabonis, that's totally fine. I understand that. I understand the Kings are also paying him to be a guy like that. But just understand, to say he just needs to be better offensively is to basically say he just needs to be an MVP. He just needs to play like an MVP. Like that's what we're talking about. That's what we're asking for here. So as long as you understand what you're asking for, we can continue with talking about the offensive improvement. He had 44 games this season under 20 points, 24 games with 15 points or less. Those numbers need to go down. And what I mean by that is he needs to have fewer games with under 20 points, significantly fewer games with 15 points or less, right? He needs to be in the category where over half of his games are at least 20 points per game, and that the 15 points per less games are down in the teens, right? Cut those down by 10 each. You do that, Kings are in a significantly better spot. Kings are probably winning a handful more games this season with that alone than they did because he struggled to score. He also needs to be more efficient scoring around the rim, right? His field goal percentage down from 71% to 69% in the restricted area. It's not a massive drop off. Like it felt like Domas just missed a ton of bunnies this year, right? Did it not? Just a ton of putbacks or just shots around the rim that rimmed out. He also got hacked a lot, but the league was allowing more physicality around the rim, which I'm okay with. Like if he's going to get hacked a lot and pushed a lot, now he shouldn't get hit in the face every freaking game like he does and get black eyes multiple times a season. But if the league is going to officiate that way and allow it to be a little more physical, I think that works in favor of the Sacramento Kings defense as a whole. So I'm okay with that. Domas needs to be more efficient, needs to be back in 70+% finishing around the or in the restricted area, finishing around the rim, which again, he finished at 69% this year. So it's not like it was awful. His free throw percentage was down from 74% to 70%. So when he does get to the foul line, which isn't enough, but when he does get to the foul line, he needs to be hitting more free throws. The Kings as a whole, we know, need to be hitting more free throws. And another area of improvement, he needs to take better care of the basketball. He averaged 3.3 turnovers a game. He had 19 games this season with 5 or more turnovers. It was very well understood and very well known that when Domantas Sabonis got the ball in the paint and around the block, just swipe at him, and there's a better chance that you're going to force a steal and force a turnover than get called for a foul. Like Domas just was swiped at a lot. He needs to do a better job of taking care and holding on to the basketball and not losing it around the rim. He lost the ball way too much this season. I'm not saying, again, with giving Domantas Sabonis an A, I'm not saying, wow, this was a perfect season for Domas. That's why he didn't get an A+. And he had no chance really of getting an A+. Based off of, like, an A+ was never under consideration for me. To me, it was, can I give him an A- or worse? And I couldn't do it. I had to give him an A because of the historic season that he had. That being said, if he has another similar level of historic season next season and the Kings once again aren't a playoff team, then we have to start talking about, hey, the triple doubles are great. The double doubles are great. Why aren't the Kings winning basketball games when Domas is doing this? How much is that his fault? How much of that is the Kings' fault? We can kind of have that conversation right now, but I think maybe if we get midway through next season and we're having the same problem, that's where we can really start to have that conversation. But obviously, offensive improvement is needed from Domas to get that grade up. This season, the Locked On Kings podcast has been brought to you by our first ever local sponsor. That's Sac Yard Community Tap House. I'm so grateful for Sackyard, for taking a chance on the Locked On Kings podcast, for partnering with me this year, and for giving me a venue, an opportunity to do things that we've never done before. This season, we hosted live watch parties. I hosted my first ever live podcast with Gary Gerald and Jerry Reynolds in their outdoor patio. It was so much fun. Thank you to all of you Kings fans and listeners who showed up to be a part of those events this year. And just because Kings season is over doesn't mean that you stop going to Sackyard. In fact, the summertime is the perfect time to go to Sackyard. They have a great place to hang out after a long day of work or on the weekends with your friends, with your buddies, with your family. Even bring your pets. They love dogs there around there. You can get their great food from their new food truck, plus their kitchen on that they have built in. It's relatively new. They have great food out there, but you go for their beers, right? Their beers on tap are delicious. They're always rotating in a tremendous amount of amazing seltzers and beers and things for you to try. Plus, they have local wines for you to try as well. If you're trying to beat the heat, their outdoor patio has misters year round, so it's comfortable out there. Inside, it's comfortable too. They have TVs in there for you to watch baseball or whatever the big summer sporting events are. Hey, even watch the Olympics over there if you want to. Sackyard is the place to be all year long, but especially during the summertime. And Sackyard is your home of the Locked On Kings listener. Mention Locked On Kings for a 10% discount off your tab. And today's episode of the Locked On Kings podcast is brought to you by DoorDash. If you want to make mom smile, start Mother's Day with flowers or surprise her with gifts from the brands that she loves, delivered the very same day with DoorDash. If your mom has a sweet tooth, if she's a tech enthusiast, if she's into all sorts of things, like a beauty connoisseur, maybe she's outdoorsy, no matter what she's into, you can make her smile with a fruit or flower bouquet, makeup, tech gear, workout wear, and more with DoorDash that is sent right to her. You can even pair flowers with a gift card so she can celebrate any way that she wants. Is she a bookworm? Try a bookstore gift card. If she likes a good latte, you can get a gift card to her favorite coffee shop or cafe. You truly cannot go wrong. DoorDash has a large list of options, so not only do they help you get your gifts either to you to give to them or directly to them on the day of, on Mother's Day itself, they can do that. But in addition to that, they help you find your gifts, which is a big deal for people like me that get scared every single year and are terrible at buying gifts. Are like, what the heck do I get, Mom? That is the right. DoorDash can help you with that. They can help solve that. So get all your Mother's Day gifts all in one place and get 50% off your next order up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flower, convenience, grocery, or retail order now with code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA. Order now using DoorDash today. Terms apply. All right, and our final grade to give out, Malik Monk also gets an A. Realistically, how much more can we expect of Malik? Think about it. With his role, and again, he's graded based off of his role and his responsibility, not on the same level that De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis are graded. For Malik Monk's role, how much more can we expect than what Malik gave Sacramento? Now, if his role changes, the expectations change. But the role didn't change this year. He was off the bench all season long. He should have been the NBA Sixth Man of the Year, right? It shouldn't have been close. Congrats, Naz Reid, I guess. But we know Malik Monk should have won it. His scoring went up from 13 to 15 points per game off the bench. His percentages were basically the same, so he didn't really have any drop-off, but his attempts per game were up, so he was expected to score more, and he did so just as efficiently. His assists were up, rebounds were up, and he still played 2 minutes less on average this season than he played with the Los Angeles Lakers 2 seasons ago. That's crazy to me. Now, granted, he got games as a starter in LA, but Malik needs to play more, right? If he returns, whether he's a starter or not, but I don't understand. I don't see a scenario, and I've said this before. I don't see a scenario where Malik Monk returns and he's not a starter. If he returns, he needs to be playing 30 minutes a game. Like, he's just too good to not play 30 minutes a game. This season, the Kings were 9-5 when Malik played 30 or more minutes. The Kings were 21-12 when Malik played 27 or more minutes. And he averaged around 25, 26 minutes per game this year. So more Malik Monk is a good thing. Play Malik Monk more. Now, he played 72 games this season, which is his lowest in his last 3 years. But still, 72 out of 82. We know the injury at the end of the season really killed the Kings. Only missing 10 games. That's not that big of a deal. Would you like to see that less? 100%. But it's not a narrative of, oh, Malik Monk is injury prone or anything like that. That's not the case at all. His free throw percentage did drop from 88% to 82%. So that free throw percentage needs to get back up. Again, this is a team-wide issue, not just a Malik Monk issue. He only got to the line 2 times per game, though. That's an area that can improve. Malik just finding a way to get to the foul line more, and maybe with a higher volume, maybe with more minutes, a starting opportunity, maybe we'll naturally see that number increase. But Malik is too good of a free throw shooter to only get to the line 2 times a game. Here's the part where it gets scary. And the scary part is what we've talked about a lot already this offseason, which is if the Kings lose Malik this season. Talk about how difficult it is to replace Malik, not just as a leader on the floor, not just as a leader in the locker room, not just as a personality. Malik Monk assisted on 29% of Sacramento's assisted baskets this season. 29%. To put that into perspective, Domantas Sabonis assisted on 33% of the Kings' assisted baskets. De'Aaron Fox was at 24%. What does that tell you? Malik Monk was the second playmaker on this team, second facilitator on this team. To have or to lose somebody like that, yes, he's important to the second unit, but Malik was doing that when he was playing with the starters to close out games too. Malik as a facilitator, that is where he has really blossomed in Sacramento. To a point where now the Kings are so heavily reliant upon that if you lose that, you're just taking an important cog out of the wheel of Sacramento's offense. And I just don't know how the Kings can replace that with somebody who isn't hyper playmaker focused to where they don't do much of the scoring that Malik Monk brings to the table when the Kings need to go and get a bucket too. He was that guy many times for Sacramento this season as well. 40% three-point shooting, 7+ assists or 18+ points per game with similar efficiency is what gets Malik Monk in that A+ range. Should we expect that? Maybe if his minutes go up because of a starting role, sure. Maybe that makes it a little more understandable or a little more expected. But for what Malik Monk gave the Sacramento Kings this year, the way that he played and how important he was to this Kings team, it's impossible not to give him an A grade in my mind. Don't worry. The entire Kings roster and coaching staff and front office is not all A grades, but A- for De'Aaron Fox, A for Domantas Sabonis, and A for Malik Monk. I felt like I had to give those grades out, even in a season where the Kings missed the playoffs and won 2 fewer games. If you have different grades from me, share them and tell me why. And if you think I'm grading too easily, I will take that criticism, right? Hit me up on Twitter at MattGeorgeSack, email me mattgeorgesports@gmail.com, and leave your thoughts in the YouTube comment section down below. On tomorrow's or the next episode of Locked On Kings, it should be out tomorrow. The next 3 grades, I will be doing Keegan Murray, Harrison Barnes, and Kevin Huerter. Don't worry. None of them are close to an A. Well, Keegan Murray might be kind of close, but none of them are getting above a B. Right? Don't worry. If you want grumpy bad grades, there will be some bad grades coming in there as well. I also have grades to give out for Keon Ellis, Davion Mitchell, Trey Lyles, Mike Brown, Monty McNair, Alex Len, Sasha Vezenkov, Chris Duarte, and JaVale McGee. Those are all the grades that we're going to be giving out over the course of this series this week. So keep an eye out and an ear out for that. Appreciate your support. Can't wait to have you join me on the next episode of Locked On Kings. Until then, my name is Matt George. You've been listening to the Locked On Kings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.